What's the worst defense you've seen someone make in a court? Judge, why are you late? Defendant, my mama didn't wake me up. Judge, how old are you? Defendant, 42. A guy was in court for a DUI, and he insisted on taking the stand when his lawyer advised him not to. Turned out he wanted the judge to know the cop who arrested him was just some rude kid trying to be a big shot, and he wasn't even drunk. He'd only had 2 bottles of wine with dinner. His lawyer interrupted him to try to get him to stop talking, and he told his lawyer to shut up. Then the judge advised him to listen to his lawyer, and he told the judge, "I'm not a damn child, don't interrupt me," and the judge just smiled and sat back and said, "Please, proceed." We all knew it was over for this guy. He got maximumed on the charge and advised in the future, if he was going to pay for a lawyer, he should listen to him. I was the bailiff on a kidnap/assault case. The defendant was proper, acting as his own attorney. During jury selection he had the option to wear civilian clothing instead of his jail clothes. He chose to remain in his jail attire, complete with handcuffs and waist restraints. It came time for him to cross-examine the victim. Understandably, she was very upset. Before he even started, she was crying and refused to look at him. The defendant's first question went like this: "You seem upset. Does it make you nervous to be questioned by the person that assaulted you?" You could hear a pin drop in that courtroom. He was found guilty and sentenced to 46 years to life in prison. I knew a guy that was charged with pimping a 17-year-old girl. Mind you, he didn't tell anyone he knew she was 17. I won't get into the morality of pimping because that's another subject entirely. But his defense was that he wasn't a pimp. He was a rapper and a drug dealer. Like, why would you admit to being a drug dealer? They threw the book at his ass with like 20 to 26 years. New law for pimping minors, statutory rape, etc. I gave testimony as a health professional in a child custody case. The mother wanted to revoke the father's joint physical custody of the 8-year-old girl. The issue was, that girl was asked to wipe her father's butt, apply lotion, and wash his genitals. The father's case was that, because he was obese, fatigued, suffering from frequent diarrhea, and taxed to take care of his own hygiene without assistance, it was acceptable for her to do this, as long as she wore gloves, to avoid contracting hepatitis C from him. He also argued that it taught her a lesson about compassion and caring for those unable to do so themselves, and helped them to bond. Truly incredible. Please, for all that is holy, tell us his custody was denied. The father retained joint legal and physical custody, although that may have changed in a subsequent trial. The result of this case was a stipulation that the father obtain the services of a personal care attendant to assist with toileting when the girl was present. The father wasn't inclined to bear that expense, and I suspected would try to skirt around it, thereby making the girl responsible for reporting against him to assure enforcement. The situation was already rife with the father's manipulations being used against an immature girl who just wanted her dad's love, so this was a disappointing outcome. In addition, even if the toileting issue were resolved, a PCA wouldn't help the father understand or address his daughter's emotional and safety needs. The dad had a free attorney from a men's rights organization and lived on disability income. The mother worked and was hard pressed to support her family on one income with no child support and to pay attorney fees in addition, but she was continuing to fight for full custody when last I knew. I only hit him. He fell off the building himself. A stupid person who Spartan kicked my uncle off a high school building. I knew a guy who said that the police who responded to the domestic that he had perpetrated had no right to charge him with meth possession, since the meth was so pure, no one could have seen it. As a public defender, you're thrown into a lot of shitty cases with little hope of winning, and with very little time to win them. My approach was to make any argument within the ethical rules that govern attorneys, which led me to a hilarious court appearance. My client was charged with possession of marijuana, a misdemeanor first offense that carries no jail time in my state. Client and his friend were smoking in a park. Some citizen reports it to the police, and the cops come and find them in their car after smoking. My client admits to the cop that he was smoking. Obviously I'm thinking he's got no defense here. Other guy admits to smoking and gives the police the weed and pipe from his backpack. The entirety of the evidence was the admission and the physical evidence. So, I argue at trial, bench trial, no jury, with zero expectation of winning, that the state failed to prove my client ever possessed the marijuana. Your Honor, for all we know, the other guy at all times had possession of the marijuana. For all we know, he held the pipe to my client's lips and lit it for him. A discussion amongst myself, the judge, and the prosecutor ensues. Can you smoke marijuana and not be in possession of it? I got the decision a few months later, not guilty. Story from Driver's Edition. Guy was in court for killing two relatively young gals while drunk. Defendant's lawyer claimed that the young girls should be at fault because this man was drunk and the girl was sober. She should have had the reaction time to get out of the way. Pretty stupid defense, but in terms of the worst defense, nothing beats that. Absolutely appalling. Friend of mine once got a ticket for leaving her car standing in the marked off no parking zone in front of a grocery store, which she thought was outrageous because she was just running in to get a pack of smokes. Then she saw how much the ticket was for, something like $120, which she thought was just ridiculous because damn it, she was just running in for a pack of smokes. I mean, come on, how is that worth $120? So her plan was to go to court and contest the ticket and point out to the judge how ridiculous that was and offer to compromise it like maybe $40 because for Pete's sake, she was just running in for a pack of smokes, and let's be reasonable here. Yes, her plan was to haggle with the judge over how much the ticket should be worth. So she goes to court and sits there most of the day waiting for her case to be called, and eventually she gets bored and goes outside to grab a smoke and hang out. And while she's out there, her case is called. She missed the whole thing, didn't even get to try the whole. Come on, $120? For that? Come on, I'll give you $40 and even that's highway robbery. Defense on the judge, and got hit for the full value of the ticket plus court costs. I had a guy come into my jail with a robbery charge. He tried to explain that it was a misunderstanding because he just took a girl's money and kept the weed he was supposed to buy her for himself, so at most he was just a shitty boyfriend. He made his situation worse by throwing in, "Did she tell you we are banging?" She was underage. Aggravated criminal sodomy. The defense attorney said the assault only lasted for a minute. During closing argument to the jury, of course his DNA was in the alley behind his apartment, where an assault took place. Where else would you expect to find your DNA, except where you lived? It says here you were drinking and driving. Judge: no sir, I drank then I drove. A guilty guy. A domestic abuse case. The husband was the accused. The couple was in their late 70s or early 80s. When asked if he did indeed abuse his wife, the husband started complaining that some 40 years ago the wife pretended to be ill and he had to do the laundry all by himself, as if he expected the judge to just go, "Oh okay, I guess that's cool then." Wasn't legit caught, just caught to change my last name. I was 14 and wanted to change my last name to my stepdad's. My biological father had to be present for the appointment and sign off on it. It went something like this. Judge: okay, if everyone will sign here your name will be changed. Biological dad: I'm not signing. Judge: why not? Biological dad: what if she gets pregnant out of wedlock? I want the baby to have my last name. Reminder that I was 14 years old, had never even kissed a boy, and I hadn't spoken to my dad in at least 5 years. The judge told him that was an irrelevant point and convinced him to sign the paper. I was glad to leave that part of my life behind me that day. My sister told the judge that the light wasn't that red. Then he said he was going to suspend her license and she said, but my dad already took it away. It was Independence Day, Your Honor. A day to celebrate the freedoms that our forefathers fought and died for. A day to celebrate what this country is. So yes, Judge, I did do some meth. For freedom. This was in a drug treatment court. That's it for today, but I'm doing a part 2 of this thread because it's absolutely hilarious. Here's a playlist of more lawyer threads if you can't wait. do all the YouTube stuff and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.